Hi everybody, my name's Pete Nelshelski. I'm a qualified counsellor, a mental health nurse and a Division 1 nurse as well too. This is the first part of a series of conversations about separation and divorce. It's also in support of a book that we've written called Separate Well or Have Separation Hell, which chronicles and discusses all aspects of divorce from the legal, emotional and physical aspects as well too. And also that discusses especially the impacts that it has on the kids. I suppose the first part we have to look at is that divorce itself is defined as a legal separation in the eyes of the courts. It also, I also want to talk about in this series as well too, is that why do people separate and what the impacts of separation is going to have on you down the track. So people often take these decisions not lightly at all, but over the last 10 to 15 years there's been big discussions about divorce and separation, and divorce has actually been watered down quite a lot. People often don't realise the impacts of separation and divorce that they have on their lives, have on their families, and have on significant others as well too. So it's not something that should be taken upon lightly, because the after effects are going to be quite widespread. For some people it really is a better situation for them to divorce, especially when there's emotional abuse, physical abuse, drugs and alcohol issues, all that sort of stuff. Sometimes it's better in that respect to divorce, if there is some abuse. In other situations, a lot of people talk about and discuss the issues that they went through in their divorce. And as a counsellor, I've seen many people, and they've often come to me saying, look, I want to separate because my position in counselling, or my specialty, was separation transition. And what I actually found is that people weren't in that position yet, and they were looking for reasons to get out of their marriage. So what I would do is I'd talk to them, and they would want that advice about how to separate properly and successfully and to do it the right way. But most people were not even at the point of separation yet. They were thinking that the separation was going to be a much better way of actually dealing with things. One of the main reasons, there's a multitude of reasons why people separate and why people get divorced. People often look at their future planning, and when they discuss and talk about why they think it's best that they divorce, they are looking at past, present, future. What they're looking at is what's happened in the past, and they've thought, okay, I've been with this guy or girl for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I've come to a point in my life where I think I need to divorce. I think I need to separate. So they're looking at what's happened in the past, maybe in the last 6 months to a year to the last 5 years. Some people are staying with their kids, because their kids are quite young and they don't want to impact on their children. Some people are staying there because they don't perceive themselves as being able to find another partner. Because often people don't like to be alone. They don't want to be by themselves. It's actually very scary. So one of the decisions that people make is they look into the future and go, look, I'm better off staying in this relationship, and it might be a very bad relationship. So. But also too, a lot of people look at their future and they go, okay, look, the grass could be greener. I could find someone else and it could be much better than what I'm getting now. Rather than looking at the problems that are happening and the problems that are presenting themselves from themselves and also their former partner as well too. So a lot of it is based around communication. Yet they're looking at their lives at this point in time. If you look back 20 years, or for those people that are in their 40s, let's say for instance, that they look back 20 years, they didn't think they would be in this position. No one does. No one could conceive, if they had a crystal ball, that they could look into the future and say, well, this is where I'm going to be, and this is what I'm going to have happen to me. I certainly didn't, and a lot of people certainly don't. So when I have seen people in a counselling session wanting to separate from their former partner, I've actually delved into a lot of their past, present, and future, decisions and thoughts that they have, and a lot of them are viewed, especially their present situations, are also to do with themselves, and also their future is to what they perceive what they perceive their future is going to be like. So when we're looking at what's going to happen down the track, you also have to look at what's going to happen to you and the impacts of that separation or divorce is going to have on you, your former partner, and your children. What your future is going to hold for you, and hopefully it's going to be a nice future. But often I've spoken to people on numerous occasions post 5-10 years post their divorce, and they're still in a position that doesn't allow them to move forward because the divorce has been acrimonious. They've got children involved. They are that they do often wish that they could go back and work harder at their marriages. Often when people divorce and separate, that they get to a certain point that they can't go back from, especially if there's legal stuff involved as well here. So, think very, very, very seriously about separating from your former partner. I'll discuss a couple of other reasons. One of the main reasons that I've found from people who often talk about separation and wanting to separate and divorce is their needs not being met. Okay, when you talk to the person that comes in, or you talk to both people, it's about both their needs getting met, but they're not getting them met at that point in time, and they perceive that someone else might be able to move to be able to meet those needs as well too. So when we're looking at the problems and the presenting problems that happen in a divorce and separation, a lot of it is a perception problem and a lot of it is a communication problem. So like when I see both the male and the female, both apart and together, and they perceive certain problems, often it's a lack of communication. Like one of them might say, look, I am not getting my needs met physically in a sexual sense, and I might I'm so tired, I go to bed and I just want to sleep because my former partner's not helping me. And the other person might turn around and say, well, geez, I want to have my physical needs met or to have sex, whatever, and I try, but I'm rejected. So therefore, there's two different ways of looking at things. There's two different ways of actually seeing things, and it's about getting two people to communicate and look at what their issues are and how they perceive those issues. A lot of the time, the separation transition counselling that I have been doing, I thought was about separating well, but it actually became about marriage guidance and marriage counselling. So, it's about getting your needs met. It's about talking about those needs and about seeing the future together. Another issue is that when people first get together, there's a thing called Hollywood love, and these, it's such a beautiful time. It's fantastic. You have all these emotions. It's wonderful, and then all of a sudden, as time goes by, there's a perception that my partner has changed. My partner has put on 30 kilos, not taking care of themselves, is a lot more aloof. They're not attending to my needs as well too. They're not complimenting me. They're not turning around and saying good things about me as well. So what happens is that people's emotional needs aren't getting met as well too. So when that happens, there's a really big perception around that maybe someone else can actually meet those needs for me, can actually do those things for me as well too. So in discussing past, present and future needs, it's about looking at what's happening now, looking at, is it me? Is it about issues that I have about myself and my perceptions of the relationship? Is it also about that my parents have divorced in the past, and is there some emotional issues that I've taken from that divorce as well, and that I didn't know about, that I've taken into my future relationships, my romantic relationships. It's about looking at how we perceive what we want in a relationship as well too. okay, and about how we get our needs met too. So when people do think about separation and divorce, it's about, look, what's greener on the other side. And people have this inherent need also to feel as if they're loved, they're secure, that they have a safe environment as well too. And if they're not perceived to feel that, then they're not going to be able to have that. Things are going to compound, problems are going to become bigger, and it's what's called the octopus effect. So what started off as one little problem that's not talked about has become 8 or 9 or 10 different problems that are perceived to be, bigger than Ben-Hur or bigger than anything that they have perceived. But people also need to look at and discuss within themselves is that if I do divorce, is it going to be better for me and my family? And I think one of the major issues and major problems that we need to look at is that how is it going to impact my kids? How is it going to hurt them? How are they going to grow up? There was a lovely psychologist called Judith Wallerstein. She did a 25-year study called The Unexpected Legacy of Divorce, and she chronicled children from divorce that from the start of the divorce, 5 years, 10 years, 15 and 25 years post-divorce. And psychologists, 30 years ago were saying that divorce itself was a short-term event, and that it was people would get over that. But what we're finding now, and all the research is actually showing, is that the unexpected legacy of divorce has far-reaching effects. It's a long-term effect. It lasts forever on the people that, the adults that go through the divorce. It's also the significant others that go through it. It's also especially the children that are impacted greatly with divorce. It also showed that from this is that children of divorce are more depressed, more aggressive towards their parents and teachers than are youngsters from intact families. They are more likely to develop mental and physical disorders, eating disorders as well too. They start sexual activity earlier, have more children out of wedlock as well. They're less likely to marry themselves because of, and I'll talk about something called the sleeper effect fairly shortly, but I'll come back to that. They abuse drugs, they are likely to turn to crime and commit suicide as well too. And what generally happens is that children are perceived to actually get over the divorce very quickly, but children deny things very, very well. They don't want to be a burden on their parents. They don't want to be part of the problem, especially when you've got two acrimonious parents as well too. So they go through this continuum into adulthood. They start having their own romantic lives, but the powerful ghosts of the past often come back to haunt them. And this is what's called the sleeper effect, and the sleeper effect is what children go through post-divorce. It's an effect where they go through and they're perceived to function well, and they bury this stuff that they're going through, so that they're not seen to like they're actually seen to be coping well. So what happens is they get towards adulthood and they start to have their own romantic liaisons and marriages and kids and that sort of stuff. And what happens in the long run is that these issues come back to haunt them. They actually surface, and they don't function well in their adult lives. So they keep perpetuating the ghosts of the past. So it really impacts children. Separation and divorce. Really don't do it lightly. Really look at the issues, get marriage counselling, try and do everything in your power not to divorce as much as possible. And if you do divorce, please don't go through the legal system. There you go. I'll end it there for the minute.